Dandavat Paranams Mr. Kesava, Dandavat Paranams Umadevi.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Dandavats Prabhu. If while we're reading any question or comment comes, please just please speak up. Okay. So, Dandavat Pranams to everyone watching and participating. We are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are doing these readings every week. And we're also paying our humble Dandavat Pranams to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada for providing this wonderful commentary and translation of Bhagavatam. And we're also praying to Srimati Radharani, following the instructions or guidance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who told us that if we cannot understand something about Srimati Radharani through the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam, then our study has been for waste. So keeping this in mind, we are praying to Srimati Radharani. Yadi seva vanchitasyama yasya kripaya vayam labema sarvam prapnuma prayojanam damni Shri Bhagavat Pade Krishna sambandhi sarvam cha yadi na jani mahe tutam ashtadashasu sahasreshu shlokanam Bhagavat oktishu radharanim na vindamatada nishphalam Bhagavat adhyayanam radhikaya kripam vina vyartasyat sarva parishrama. If we are cheated out of serving that personality whose mercy awards us everything we need, including residence in the Lord's holy Dham and all things connected to Krishna, and if we cannot understand or discover Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, then our study of Srimad Bhagavatam has been pointless. Without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, all our efforts are in vain. Hare Krishna. So, we are continuing today from a new chapter. We're starting chapter 29. Talks between Nārada and King Prācīnabarhi. Text 1. Prācīnabarhir uvacha Bhagavam ste vachos mabir na samyag abhagam yate kavayastad vijananti na vayam karma mohita. King Prācīnabarhi replied, "My dear Lord, we could not appreciate completely the purport of your allegorical story of the king Puranjana. Actually, those who are perfect in spiritual knowledge can understand, but for us, who are overly attached to fruitive activities, to realize the purpose of your story is very difficult." Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 7.13, Lord Krishna says, Tribhir guna mayer bhavar ebhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabijananti mam ebhya param avyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Generally, people are enchanted by the three modes of material nature, and therefore practically unable to understand that behind all materialistic activities in the cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Generally, when people are engaged in sinful or pious activities, they are not perfect in knowledge of devotional service. The allegorical story narrated by Nārada Muni to King Barhisman is especially meant to engage conditioned souls in devotional service. The entire story, narrated allegorically, is easily understood by a person in devotional service. But those who are engaged not in devotional service but in sense gratification cannot perfectly understand it. That is admitted by King Barhisman. This 29th chapter describes that by too much attachment for women, one becomes a woman in the next life. But a person who associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or his representative, becomes free from all material attachments and is thus liberated. Nārada Uvacha, this is text 2. Purusham Puran Janam Vidyad Yadvyan Aktyatmana Puram Ekadvi Tri Chatus Padam Bahu Padam Apadakam. The great sage Nārada Muni continued, "You must understand that Puranjana, the living entity, transmigrates according to his own work into different types of bodies, which may be one-legged, two-legged, three-legged, four-legged, many-legged, or simply legless. Transmigrating into these various types of bodies, the living entity, as the so-called enjoyer, is known as Puranjana." Purport: how the spirit soul transmigrates from one type of body to another is nicely described here. The word ekapada, one-legged, refers to ghosts, for it is said that ghosts walk on one leg. The word dvipada, meaning biped, refers to human beings. When he is old and invalid, the human being is supposed to be triped or three-legged because he walks with the help of a stick or some kind of a cane. Of course, the word chatuspada refers to quadrupeds or animals. The word bahupada refers to those creatures who have more than 4 legs. There are many insects, such as a centipede, and many aquatic animals that have many legs. The word apadaka, meaning without legs, refers to serpents. The name Puranjana indicates one who enjoys possessing different types of bodies. His mentality for enjoyment in the material world is accommodated by different types of bodies. Text 3. Yo vigyata hritastasya purushasya sakeshvara yana vigyayate pumbir namabirva kriya gunai. The person I have described is unknown. As unknown is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master and the eternal friend of the living entity. Since the living entities cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material names, activities, or qualities, he remains everlastingly unknown to the conditioned soul. Purport: because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unknown to the conditioned soul, he is sometimes described in Vedic literatures as Nirakara, Avigyata, or Avanmanasa Gochara. Actually, it is a fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be perceived by material senses, as far as his form, name, quality, pastimes, or paraphernalia are concerned. However, when one is spiritually advanced, one can understand the name, form, qualities, pastimes, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.55. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata. One can understand in truth the Supreme Personality of Godhead only when one is engaged in devotional service. Ordinary persons engaged in pious and impious activities cannot understand the form, name, and activities of the Lord. The devotee, however, can know the personality of Godhead in many respects. He can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that his address is Goloka Vrindavan, and that his activities are all spiritual. Because the Lord's form and activities cannot be understood by materialistic people, he is described by the Shastras as Nirakara. That is, one whose form cannot be ascertained by a materialistic person. This does not mean that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no form. It means that it is not understood by the karmis or fruitive actors. His form is described in Brahma Samhita as Satchidananda Vigraha, as confirmed by the Padma Purana. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhaved Grahayam Indriyai Sevan Mukehya Jivado Svayam Eva Sfuratyada. No one can understand Krishna as he is being utilized by blunt material senses. However, the Lord reveals himself to his devotees, being pleased with them because of their transcendental loving service rendered unto him. Since the name, form, qualities, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, cannot be understood by the material senses, he is also called Adhoksaja, meaning beyond sense perception. When the senses are purified by devotional activity, the devotee understands everything about the Lord by the Lord's grace. In this verse, the words Pumbir Namabir Va Kriya Gunai are especially significant because God, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has many names, activities, and qualities, although none of them are material. Despite the fact that all these names, activities, and pastimes are mentioned in the Shastras and understood by the devotees, the karmis, or fruitive laborers, cannot understand them, nor can the jnanis, mental speculators, understand them. Although there are thousands of names of Lord Vishnu, the karmis and jnanis intermingle the names of the Supreme Godhead with names of demigods and human beings. Because they cannot understand the actual name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they take it for granted that any name can be accepted. They believe that since the Absolute Truth is impersonal, they can call him by any name. Otherwise, they maintain he has no name. This is not a fact. Here it is clearly said, Namabhir va Kriya Gunai. The Lord has specific names such as Rama, Krishna, Govinda, Narayan, Vishnu, and Adhoksaja. There are indeed many names, but the conditioned soul cannot understand them. Text 4. Yadhajigrikshan Purusha Karshnyena Prakriter Gunan Navadvaram Dvihastangri Tatra Manuta Sadvati. When the living entity wants to enjoy the modes of material nature in their totality, he prefers, out of many bodily forms, to accept that body which has 9 gates, 2 hands, and 2 legs. Thus he prefers to become a human being or a demigod. Purport. This is a very nice explanation of how the spiritual being, the part and parcel of Krishna,
Yeah.
the part and parcel of Krishna, God, accepts a material body by virtue of his own desires. Accepting 2 hands, 2 legs, and so on, the living entity fully enjoys the modes of material nature. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.27, ichadveshas hamuthena vandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani samoham sargeyanti parantapa. O sign of Bharata, Arjuna, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. Originally, the living entity is a spiritual being, but when he actually desires to enjoy this material world, he comes down. From this verse, we can understand that the living entity first accepts a body that is human in form, but gradually, due to his degraded activities, he falls into lower forms of life. And to the animal, plant, and aquatic forms, by the gradual process of evolution, the living entity again attains the body of human being and is given another chance to get out of the process of transmigration. If he again misses his chance in the human form to understand his position, he is again placed in the cycle of birth and death in various types of bodies. The desire of the living entity to come into the material world is not very difficult to understand. Although one may be born in a family of Aryans, where there are restrictions against meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, still one may want to enjoy these forbidden things. There is always someone who wants to go to a prostitute for illicit sex, to a hotel to eat meat and drink wine, or to a gambling club to enjoy so-called sports. All these propensities are already within the hearts of the living entities. Loke vyavya misa madhya seva nitya hi jantor. But some living entities stop to enjoy these abominable activities and consequently fall down to a degraded platform. The more one desires a degraded life within his heart, the more he falls down to occupy different forms of abominable existence. This is the process of transmigration and evolution. A particular type of animal may have a strong tendency to enjoy one kind of sense enjoyment, but in the human form one can enjoy all the senses. The human form has the facility to utilize all senses for gratification. Unless one is properly trained, he becomes a victim of the modes of material nature, as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Prakrite kriyamanani gunhai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. As soon as one desires to enjoy his senses, he puts himself under the control of material energy and automatically or mechanically is placed into the cycle of birth and death in various life forms. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 5 on Friday. So, before we close, were there any comments or questions from the assembled devotees? Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev Ki Jai.
Jai.
Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All
Jai.
glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhaktiveda Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai,
Jai.
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai,
Jai.
Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai,
Jai.
Vrindavan Ki Jai, Giri
Jai.
Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai,
Jai.
Radhakund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi,
Jai.
Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai
Jai.
Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Jai
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai.
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 Jai Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute ki jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai.
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 Nitai Gora Premanandi. Hari 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 Bol.
Haribol.
Jai Srimati Uma Devi Dasi ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Amir Sindhu Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare
Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu ji ki jai.
Jai. Krishna Kesava,
Dandavat Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
please may I ask a question? You'll have to forgive me. This is the first time I've ever had to use Zoom on a phone due to various circumstances. And all I have is just 3 screens. I got this big thing saying done speaking and tap to, but to make my video, I don't know how to put the video on, you see. And it seems to be very rude that I can't actually do it, if you know what I mean. I don't mean to be rude, but I just don't know how to turn the camera on. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Video has started.
Hare
Excellent.
Krishna.
Haribol,
Very nice, Prabhu.
Hello.
thank you so much, thank you.
How are you,
Oh, so
Prabhu?
Dhanyavad Suma Devi, wonderful, thank you very much, thank you. Well, given present circumstances, I go to hospital, you're pretty much up to my situation. I go to hospital next Wednesday, the 5th, I think it is, and that's when I have my surgery. So, by the grace of the Lord, all will be good for me. But I am a bit apprehensive, but all is good today. Today I'm wonderful. And why would I not be? I'm in the association with wonderful devotees, and I very much appreciate your association this morning.
Please join, please. Always you join, Prabhu. I'm very
Dhanyavad. Thank you very much, Devi. Thank you, Krishna Kaisi.
Yes, Prabhu. We wish you luck. We wish you good health with your surgery. And you also mentioned you had a question.
Yeah, it's just that with the multiple names that are being talked about and so on, all the different dimensions and the different, but they're all aspects of the Lord in one way or the other. But at the same time, individual manifestations would seem to appear when it is a situation occurs, that like, for example, I'm reading the Mahabharata at the moment, and I'm nearly finished. This is a different version that I read entirely from other ones, and the constant, how should I say, the neutrality of Krishna within the dimensions of the Mahabharata leading up to the Bhagavad Gita, and all the various forms of demons that come along, but all the various forms of the Lord which also manifest, and the different names, that it's just like I said, there are just too many names to remember in so many different ways.
Yeah, we don't have to remember all the names. I mean, the basic principle is we chant the Maha Mantra. This is the instruction we've received from Guru and Garanga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And as far as the other names go, as we partake in sadhu sangha, in the association of devotees, then we may hear of the other names in the pastimes of the Lord, in reading Bhagavatam and reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we shouldn't become overwhelmed by that. Our practice is chanting the Maha Mantra in the association of devotees, and the goal is not to become some overly complex intellectual thing. It's about becoming simple and sweet, or simple and sublime in our service, because so simple and sublime doesn't mean forgetful of what we're supposed to be focusing on. Our focus has to be very sharp, and that focus is on serving Guru and Garanga in a very practical way, and chanting helps us to focus on that. So this is the main thing. And then as far as all the other names go, Srila Prabhupada mentioned here one very important point, that even there are infinite number of names of God, but that being said, we shouldn't think that all names that we come across, including names of finite entities, are simply names of God, because that's not the case. He said it's an offense to consider a finite entity to be the infinite Lord, and we don't want to do that. Then that will very much hurt our progress and hurt our conception. The demigods, such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, you know, and their likenesses in other cultures, right? Like Indra may be Zeus in Greek. So we don't want to confuse. We don't want to confuse the demigods, who are very respected in a very respected position, but they are not the supreme personality of Godhead, and we don't want to confuse that.
Absolutely. And just one other quick question, if I may, please. At what part of during a day does the Gayatri mantra recommended?
Well,
Or
that's
is
only
there?
for people who are if you have second initiation. So that would be
Okay.
a question for whoever your guru is, so second initiation.
Okay, Dhanyavad. Thank you, Krishna Kesava.
Sure. Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So we will see you. Hopefully, we'll see you both on Friday at the same time, by Krishna's grace. Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you.